that you should read the helpful tips before you cut anything out, because there are things you're going to want to do before you cut. And yeah, I'll just refer you to those. So once you've got everything cut out, you want to grab, what we're going to work on first is this expandable pocket. So that involves 4 pieces. You should have 2 pieces that are cut out of brown craft cardstock, and 2 pieces that look like this. These are your back mat and your front mat. And I like the liquid adhesive for this only because when I tried it with the dry adhesive, I had trouble getting it to go straight, and if I needed to move it around, it just, you know, once it's down, it's down. So there are times when I think liquid adhesive is better, and probably a lot of that had to do with the fact that when I tried to do the dry adhesive, my head was getting in the way of the video, so there you go. So that said, I'm just going to go ahead and apply my adhesive. And I like trying to get the edges as best I can. That is probably the single most important thing to me, is getting those edges. So I don't really like getting my fingers in this Fabri-Tac glue, but it's just going to have to be. And fortunately, one nice thing about the Fabri-Tac is you can basically just rub it off if it bleeds onto your work. And I think the burnishing helps it too. So here we go. I can move it over just a little bit. I have a little bit of time to do that. And then I can take my burnishing tool, kind of rub off anything that's seeped out. I think that's pretty good though. Alright, so we'll go ahead and do the same to this little front mat. So now we have 2 pieces that look like this, and we've got some score marks down at the bottom here. So what we want to do is fold that up on the first score line, down on the second, up on the third, so that the tab is pointing up. So basically it forms a W. Yeah, an upside down W. Unless I'm doing it this way, and then it's, or does it matter? Yeah, doesn't matter. Okay. This side has some score marks also, so we're going to fold these in first. So it looks like that. And then we're just going to alternate so that the tabs face out. Okay. The only places we are going to be applying glue is this tab at the bottom, which we're going to do last, and these side tabs. So basically like this. And there's a little bit of a trick to how this tucks in. So the tabs get adhered to the sides so that when this is smushed together, they are flush with the edges. And so basically what these W's are going to do is they're going to interlock. So if you think of this W on the outside, your top point W is going to tuck into there. Oops, wrong side. It's going to tuck up inside that other W. And then it's going to come down on that tab and tuck. So basically, here's what I'll do. I will apply my adhesive on my left side tab. Because I know this is going to go here, and I want it butted up right against that fold on the bottom and right against that edge is where that's going to go. So basically our tab looks like this. Okay, so if you take this and you fold it over this way, this is going to, the bottom tab is going to come up like this. This gets folded over. And then this tab basically comes up like this and gets tucked under that bottom piece. And then you're going to repeat it on this side too, tucking that V in to the sides so that that butts up nicely. Like that, and it basically gives us an expandable pocket. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this because you don't need to watch that mess. It does get tricky to do this, and hopefully when you get into doing it you'll understand what I mean, but it basically makes this expand out enough so that it accommodates the thickness of our passport. The next thing we're going to be putting together is our passport cover. So you want to grab these two pieces, your outer spine, your inner spine, and a blank piece of craft cardstock. Because how we're going to do this is we're going to put adhesive on these and stick them to our cardstock and then cut around them. So I'm going to go ahead and use my dry adhesive for this. It's just a down and dirty, quick and easy way of doing this. Try and get it as close to the edge as I possibly can, but it's okay if I need to trim off. It's actually probably more ideal than so basically all I'm doing here is removing the backing and then adhering my pieces onto my craft cover stock. And then I can trim around these. And you just want to go slowly and carefully if you have a little bit of overhang. I think overhang is probably more ideal than trying to painstakingly get these to line up perfectly on an edge. Because, I don't know if you're aware of this, but 8.5 by 11 sheets are not perfect. So do not frustrate yourself by trying to get these to match up to your edges. Plus, we're not perfect cutting. So like when I cut these out, it might not be perfectly straight, although I would hope it would be if I'm using my straight edge. not to pull. Go back in and make those cuts. There we go. So, got that. And I can save that little scrap for another time. And now we have our covers. So how this goes is they basically go like this. But when you're doing this spine, there is a right way and a wrong way for this, for the bottom one too. Obviously, with this one, you've got this designed to be your guide as to how to line this one up. So what I recommend doing before you glue anything is that you make sure your bottom piece is going to line up on the correct edge. And I guess you do have a little bit of a hint because this has a border around it. And my thick side, anyway, the thicker side is on this side of this panel right now. But as I'm looking at my spine, the thick side of my border is over here, so I need to flip this and make sure that these are going to line up. And there is a little teeny tiny piece of this star on this line that shows up on this spine piece, but basically when you're lining these up and you flip it over, so if I were to line these up, and in fact it might be just easier if I just glue this top one because we already know that's going to work. So we've got some folds in this, so I'll go ahead and fold on my score marks. Carefully. And then these score marks are also going to help us line this up. And these tabs just fold down and we get ready to adhere these. So you don't have to put this on the craft cardstock because the inner mat is going to cover this and add strength to that. So I'm basically not going to put adhesive in that gutter. So what I'm going to do so that I can see this a little better is I have this little mechanical pencil and I'm just going to kind of rub it along that edge to give me a line so that I can see where that line is. I'm making a mess on this. Alright, so when I open this out, I have a light line. The same thing over here. Basically, this is going to give me my boundaries for my adhesive. So I know I'm just going right here and staying out of the gutter. I think I'm going to use liquid because I might need to move this around a little bit. So it would be a shame to accidentally have that dry adhesive fall right on my piece and me not being able to do anything about it. So now, I mostly just want to make sure I'm staying out of that gutter, making sure this is lining up how I like it, and it looks like it is. So I can burnish that down. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Okay. So now you'll see what I mean. Okay, these tabs are going to fold nicely. Okay, perfect. Perfection. Okay, so I got my thick border there, so it's going to line up like this. So I'm going to flip this over like that and apply my adhesive, and we'll go ahead and line it up. Oh, actually, I really don't want to flip it over. I really want it to be like that where I can see it. Again, just applying adhesive on the area where I have defined by that pencil board. Okay. And I know I've got a little bit of that star that's gonna... Yeah. Gotta line that up. Perfect. So let's go ahead and burnish down. I can see my boards line up. Excellent. Okay. And then I can fold over my tabs. And then I want to get these, use my bone folder to kind of tuck in those gutters, or to tuck the center into that gutter, like that. And that folds pretty well. And then we've got this, our outer spine that is also has a score marks, and that's just going to set right in that gutter and get glued like that. So over those tabs. So just center it as best I can. And I can see some little areas that aren't quite stuck down. Got a little corner over here. Oh, big corner. So I can just go in with my little needle tool and add some more adhesive to that, since I obviously wasn't quick enough or I didn't put enough on that edge. Okay, and then I kind of like to just shimmy it a little bit. Although once you start adding stuff to it, it's going to fold quite nicely. And then once your glue dries, again, it'll fold. It'll start folding better. Okay, so I think I'm going to let this dry just for a little bit. And in the meantime, I'm a huge fan of the rounded corner. So I'm just going to go ahead and give them around. Okay, the next two pieces we want to get are these two pieces that look like this. You've got one that has a tab going on the side and one that has a tab going on the short side. So one on the long side and one on the short side. The one on the long side goes on the bottom, and it's going to flip this way. And then the one with the tab on the short side goes up here because it's going to go like this. So we can go ahead and apply adhesive to our tabs and go ahead and stick those down. I went ahead and went with dry adhesive on these. So I'm just going to take my backing up and center this, you know, oops, I had to go this way. Actually, I probably could have folded these first. Probably would have been easier. Okay. So I just kind of want to get this basically in the center. And I'm just going to eyeball this. And I think that works. Burnisher. And you basically want the tab, you do want the tab to go toward the inside because our bottom mat will cover that up. And go ahead and fold this one this way. And then same thing with this. I'm just going to center this the best I can. Okay, so now we've got these. And these are going to have magnets on them. But I don't really think I want to put the magnets on there quite yet. However, what I can do is I can put my top covers on here because the magnets aren't going on top, they're going to go on the inside. So we can go ahead and grab these two little sweet little pictures and round up my corners. This little tool is a We Are Memory Keepers, and it's a three-way. You can basically make three different roundings. One's a 4, one's a 7, and one's a 10. So in case you're interested in that, and if you ever want to know what supplies I'm using, you can always go to my Amazon page, a link to which is listed in the description to all of my videos. So there you go. And if there's ever something I'm using that I haven't listed, go ahead and let me know. I'm trying to get everything as I go along, but sometimes it's possible things could get missed. So that's just going to go like that, and that's going to go like that. And I think I'm just going to use my dry adhesive for this. I'm okay with having to round those corners. That's fine. I'm just going to go ahead and stick my thing down. Awesome. Same with the other side. There. Looks good. Squeezy, lemon squeezy. Okay, our bottom mat basically has a pocket. So this bottom mat gets adhered like this, and the side gets folded like that. And so you have this kind of folder flap like this. And then we've got this pocket. So what I wanted to do, go ahead and fold my flaps. And I like to fold the bottom flap up over the side flaps. So I think what I'll do is just apply a little liquid adhesive to this side flap here. Fold this bottom flap up over it and do the same to the other side. Just to kind of tack it in place. That's all I'm really doing right now, is just tacking it in place. Because I think it's easier to put these on without having to deal with the flaps flapping around. There. So now it's closed and we don't have to worry about it. So then how this gets adhered is it goes over here in this fold. So you're going to have a pocket that opens and closes and folds. Whatnot. And you can round these side corners. I might want to do that, but I may just wait until after I get it adhered down. And then you can opt to cut out this little thing right there or not. When we fold it over, I did make it so that you might have to trim a little bit off the top depending on where you got it in that fold. I mean, some of you might be able to get it to line up. I'm noticing that I have just maybe a little bit of a sliver. So you can choose to trim that off or not. Basically, then we've got another mat that goes over like this. So what I want to do is I want to ink the edges of this side a little bit. And I'm just using Vintage Photo Distress ink. Oh, there's the other side I wanted to do, because you're not even going to see that side. Oh, what the hell, might as well put a little over here too, why not? Get that folded side too. Okay, that's probably good enough. And then this will get adhered over the top like this. So maybe what I can do is, well, I guess it doesn't really matter. So I'll go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and adhere my pocket on here. And I'm going to go ahead and use my liquid adhesive because I do have printing on those tabs, and I've found that using the liquid adhesive works better than the dry adhesive. And it might just be the type of printer and ink that I have. I have an HP laser printer, so it lays toner down. I kind of want to do this with it folded. This. Move it around if I need to, but I don't think I need to. I'm liking it. Yeah. Okay. And then what you want to keep in mind when you cut this out is you are going to have this piece over this. So if you cut this out, then you're either going to have to do the same thing here, or you're just going to have this be the back of this. So I think I'm just going to leave it. That just seems to be the easiest all around. I think I'm going to go ahead and trim off. I have a little bit of excess here that I'll go ahead and trim off. If I can do it without cutting the other side. Looks good. And I think what I'm going to not do is round these corners, because I think it's going to leave a funky opening, which is not what I want. So I'll go ahead and adhere this down just like that. This little piece, I've rounded the corners on this little piece, but I'm not going to do it on that pocket because I know I've done that before and I didn't like it. So before I make another mistake, we'll just talk about that right now. What you could do is like stick a little piece of paper or something in there to kind of give it a decorative look, or we could go back in with our distressed ink a little bit. And just dress that up somewhat. I may go back in and add a little something something to that. I don't know. Okay. Before I get too carried away, we are going to want a magnet on this, because when we adhere this to here, this is going to flip over and we're going to have a magnet that adheres there. So before we pop that on, we want to make sure we get our magnet in there. So, phew, it's a good thing I remembered that. I'd be doing this again. Okay, so what I'm going to do is go ahead and adhere this into my book, and then we can deal with figuring that out. I'm going to go ahead and use my dry adhesive. And just carefully lay my book on there. I think I'm going to opt for a little bit of overhang versus not. And what you want to make sure that you are doing, if you are using the dry adhesive, is make sure you're not getting it on this, because we don't want it there yet. Get this out of our way quickly so we make sure it's not going to get anywhere where we don't want it. Here we go. And then I can go ahead and do the rest of my trimming.